Blue and red lights flash across a quiet suburban street as two police officers storm a front porch. Without hesitation, they grab a black woman by the arms and drag her down the steps of her own home. Her voice is calm, steady, and full of authority as she insists this is her house, but her words are ignored. Neighbors gather, some recording with their phones, others whispering nervously as the scene unfolds. The officers shove her forward, mocking her protest, convinced she is trespassing. Yet behind her composed eyes lies a truth so powerful, it will soon silence everyone. What would you do if those sworn to protect you turned into the ones violating you? She was a woman who carried herself with quiet strength. Middle-aged, composed, and respected in her community, she walked home each evening in her crisp work clothes, her purse neatly packed with files and a badge tucked out of sight. Her house stood on a calm suburban street, its porch lined with flowers, its walls decorated with family photos that spoke of pride, discipline, and dignity. Inside, everything reflected balance and order, a home built with effort and love. The neighborhood was a mix of families. Some greeted her warmly. Others looked with silent judgment, whispering behind curtains. Their prejudice lingered in stares, but she had learned to rise above it. She lived her life with grace, never lowering herself to meet ignorance. Not far away, two police officers prepared to patrol. They were known in the area, not for protecting, but for intimidating. Their arrogance was notorious, their actions often driven more by bias than duty. They were the kind of men who carried power like a weapon, not a responsibility. And on this night, their path was about to cross with hers, shattering the peace of her ordinary life. The police radios crackle with urgency as a call comes in, a report of a suspicious black woman breaking into a house. Without hesitation, two officers known for their arrogance and reckless behavior speed toward the address. They do not question the source of the complaint, nor do they stop to consider the possibility of a mistake. The woman, calm and composed, is unlocking her own front door when the squad car pulls up. She has just returned from work, carrying her bag with her keys and identification inside. Startled but not panicked, she greets the officers politely, explaining that this is her home. She even holds up her keys, trying to defuse the situation before it escalates. But the officers do not listen. Instead, their smirks cut through her dignity. They mock her voice, accuse her of lying, and insist that she prove herself further. Her professional clothes, her confidence, and her explanation mean nothing to them. Their prejudice blinds them. The moment shifts from tense to hostile. One officer grabs her arm, twisting it sharply while the other pulls her bag from her shoulder. She protests, trying to reason with them, but her words fall on deaf ears. Within seconds, they drag her outside, pressing her against her own porch rail. Neighbors begin to gather. Some watch silently from behind curtains, unwilling to intervene. Others step outside, whispering in disbelief at what they are seeing. The woman's humiliation is now public, her dignity stripped away in front of those she has lived among for years. She is treated as though she were a criminal, her cries for fairness drowned out by the arrogance of authority. The audience feels the sting of the injustice, the weight of her pain, and the fury of her undeserved humiliation. But the officers were seconds away from discovering the most humiliating truth of their lives. The officers tighten their grip as they drag her down the steps of her own porch. Their voices grow sharper, filled with insults that cut deeper than the physical pain. One sneers that people like her have no business living in a neighborhood like this, while the other laughs, suggesting she must have stolen the keys she held moments earlier. Their arrogance fills the air, heavy and suffocating. Yet the woman does not break. She breathes slowly, her chest rising and falling with controlled calmness. Even in the face of humiliation, her dignity remains intact. She knows something they do not, and that knowledge steadies her hands and keeps her eyes sharp. Neighbors begin to murmur more loudly now. A few lift their phones, recording the scene as proof. Others shout for the officers to stop, pointing out that she has done nothing wrong. Still, the officers' pride grows with the attention. They bark back at the onlookers, insisting they know exactly what they are doing. Each insult they throw at her is louder, meant to assert dominance in front of the crowd. The woman finally speaks, her voice calm but firm. She warns them they are making a serious mistake, a mistake that will cost them dearly if they continue. Her words are met with laughter. One officer mocks her tone. while the other dismisses her as delusional. They cannot imagine that their power could be challenged, least of all by the woman they are trying to strip of respect. Her eyes shift subtly to her purse lying on the porch where they dropped it. Inside rests the truth, silent but undeniable. Her badge, the one symbol that could change everything in an instant. The audience feels the weight of it, the tension of a storm about to break. The officers remain blind, consumed by their arrogance, while she stands with quiet strength, knowing the balance of power will not stay as it is for long. What would happen if the truth she carried in her purse was revealed right now? The situation escalates as one of the officers shoves her hard against the wall of her own home. His hand presses into her shoulder, while the other begins speaking into his radio, calling for backup. The message is clear. They intend to arrest her, to strip away what little dignity they have left her with. The woman repeats calmly that this is her house, her property, her life they are violating. Each word comes steady, measured, and unshaken. But the officers ignore her voice, as if it holds no meaning. To them, she is just another target to control. The crowd thickens now, spilling from porches and sidewalks. Dozens of phones rise into the air, red recording lights glowing as neighbors document every second. Their voices rise in outrage, demanding the officers stop. Some plead for compassion, others shout in anger at the injustice happening before their eyes. Yet the officers refuse to yield. Their arrogance only hardens under the weight of the attention. Through it all, the woman does not scream, does not resist, does not crumble. It is deliberate, controlled, and full of purpose. From the crowd, a bold voice pierces the noise. A neighbor yells, "Check her bag." The suggestion hangs heavy in the air, pointing directly toward the hidden truth. But the officers scoff and ignore it, too blinded by their own certainty to imagine what could lie inside. The silence that follows from the woman is no longer just patience. It is weighty, deliberate, and carries a warning none of them recognize. The anticipation tightens like a storm before lightning strikes, gripping both the crowd and the audience watching. But when her secret surfaces, their arrogance will shatter in seconds. One of the officers, growing impatient and eager to humiliate her further, suddenly snatches her purse from the porch. He sneers as he announces that he is checking for stolen goods. The crowd gasps, phones tilt higher, every lens capturing the moment. He digs through the bag with rough hands, pulling out items without care. Then, his fingers close around a black leather badge holder. At first he chuckles, waving it mockingly toward the crowd as though it were nothing. But curiosity drives him to flip it open. The instant the golden FBI emblem glints under the sunlight, the air changes. His mocking smirk vanishes, replaced by a face drained of color. His hands freeze and his eyes widen in disbelief. Silence crashes over the crowd. The whispers begin like a wave spreading through the neighbors, shock rippling from one to another. Everyone now knows what the officers refuse to see. The woman they dragged out of her own house is no ordinary resident. She is an FBI agent. The second officer stumbles back a step, panic flashing in his eye. The reality of their mistake sinks in. Their arrogance, their insults, their force. All of it was aimed at someone with more authority than either of them could ever claim. The woman calmly pulls her arm free, straightens her jacket, and adjusts her blouse with quiet composure. No anger shows on her face, only control. When she finally speaks, her voice has shifted. It carries the weight of command, steady and firm, unmistakably authoritative. She reminds them of federal law, of the consequences of unlawful detainment, of the accountability they can no longer escape. The crowd hangs on her every word. The tension that once belonged to the officers now rests in her control. The power has changed hands completely, and the officers know it. The same hands that dragged her now trembled before her authority. The woman does not waste another second. With calm precision, she demands their names and badge numbers. Her voice is steady but carries the sharp edge of authority that leaves no room for refusal. The officers, once so bold, now fumble for words. Their arrogance has dissolved into visible fear. She takes out her phone and dials her FBI office, speaking clearly so the entire crowd can hear. Neighbors cheer, some even laughing at the officers who only moments ago acted untouchable. The shift is dramatic. Those who once stood silent now clap and shout in support. The power balance has flipped entirely, and the officers stand exposed before the people they tried to intimidate. The two men stumble through half-formed apologies, trying desperately to soften the damage, but she does not give them an escape. She documents every detail, reminding them that no badge shields a man from accountability. Their own arrogance has chained them, and she is tightening the links. Minutes later, higher authorities arrive, their supervisors. The shock on their faces is clear as they take in the scene. Their officers caught in broad daylight, dragging an FBI agent from her own home. Phones recording, neighbors testifying, the evidence undeniable. The reprimand is swift. The supervisors strip them of command on the spot, announcing suspension and immediate investigation. The humiliation is complete, public, and irreversible. The woman stands tall, her dignity fully intact, her authority undeniable. Neighbors applaud her calm strength, many raising their phones not just to record, but to celebrate her resilience. She does not gloat, she does not shout. Her victory is in her composure, her unshaken presence. In that moment, everyone saw what true power really looked like. The street grew silent as the supervisors escorted the humiliated officers away, their heads lowered in shame. The woman picked up her purse and walked back to her front door with steady, unbroken steps. She entered her home, not as someone defeated, but as someone who had stood firm in the face of injustice. Neighbors who once watched in doubt now looked at her with admiration, whispering about the quiet power she carried. The same home that moments earlier became a stage of humiliation now stood as a symbol of dignity and truth. Inside, she continued her routine with calm pride, proving that real authority does not come from badges or uniforms. It comes from integrity, courage, and justice. Justice was delivered before everyone's eyes. But if you were standing there, what would you have done differently? Share your thoughts below and let us know what justice means to you.